Hi everyone, it's Mariah Rossel with The Journey of Beauty. So if you have been following my YouTube channel and my blog for a while, you have noticed that I talk about a whole lot of different topics. Mostly they're whatever is relevant to me and coming up in my life. Or maybe it's something that I've had a teacher speak to me about recently, or I've spoken to with friends, or a book I read, or something to that effect. One of the things that you probably have noticed that I haven't talked about much until a little bit more recently on my content is sex. And one of the reasons that I have avoided talking about sex is because I am using my blog and my YouTube channel professionally to not just share information because I think it's useful, but also to potentially speak to potential new clients. And professionally, sex is a relatively taboo subject. While I am friends with a number of sex and relationship coaches and counselors and therapists, there is also this place where talking about my own experiences of sex and sexuality are taboo and something that I have always had a concern about professionally because, I didn't want to share too much. I didn't want to overshare. And that's a really important professional boundary, right? And at the same time, one of the things that I'm realizing is that if I am not fully owning my experience as a human living in a human body, then I can't expect my clients or other people to fully own their experience. And so I think it's important that I bring up sex from time to time. Not necessarily go into graphic detail about my own sex life. However, it's important to mention that sex is a natural part of being human. It's something that as consenting adults we do, and it's beautiful, and we all have our hang-ups, and we all have our doubts and fears and shames around it, and we also have the love and the bliss and the beauty around it, and there's so much dynamic nature to the conversation of sex. And if we don't own that, if we don't have the conversations around the fact that we as humans are sexual beings, then not only do we stifle our own voices, but there's also this subtle energetic that takes our uncomfortability, our shame, and projects it onto other people and says, well, if I'm not comfortable talking about my own sexuality, then how can I really create a safe space for you to talk about your sexuality and the places where it's difficult for you, or the places where you're learning amazing things, or where are your things that are holding you back? What are these topics? But if I'm not talking about that from my perspective, then I'm not able to foster and develop that conversation with other people. And I think this goes true with everything. Sex is just one of those taboo subjects that's kind of easy to talk about. But look at your life, and I want to look at my life too, right? Where are those stories about me and who I am and my desires and my passions that I'm not talking about, that I'm not telling? And this happens to us a lot. We get ashamed of our stories. Well, I shouldn't have done that. Or we get afraid, well, if people knew this thing about me, then they would judge me, or I might have a hard time getting a job. These are all very real things. However, when we hide from our truth, when we hide from who we really are, then we not only struggle within ourselves because we don't feel seen, we don't feel heard, we don't feel like we can, if we don't accept ourselves, how can we ever expect anybody else to accept ourselves, right? And if we don't really sit and say, and own ourselves. We're never going to come be that empowered, ferocious person that grabs life and takes action, right? Because there's always going to be that thing in the back of our head of, well, what if so-and-so found out about this thing that you never told them about? Or we will, even just doubt ourselves. What if my boss learns that I am a sexually active adult? How is that going to impact? And, with sex, that's probably not going to be one of the things that is going to stop you from getting a job. And there's certain things that is a very valid concern. And so I think it's really important that we start to have these conversations. And they're hard conversations to have sometimes because we judge ourselves, we doubt ourselves, we've already brought about our shame. But if we're not open about it, and we're not sharing it, and we're not being honest, then one, we can't work on it. But two, through our lack of comfortability with expressing who we are and what we're about and our experiences, we make other people who are experiencing similar situations feel alone. Because when I don't share my story, no one can know what I've been through and what I've done in my life. And so they can't resonate. They can't say, oh, I have a similar story. And so we keep hiding our stories. We keep not talking about the truth. We keep saying, oh, well, sex is a subject that we only talk about in the bedroom. But then when we only talk about sex in the bedroom, well, who are you talking about? And what's the conversation? And is there power and control? Is there consent? Is there safety? There's all of these things that go around having healthy sexual relationships that if we're not able to talk to them with our friends and our parents and our teachers and our therapists, then we just miss out on this huge chunk of activity that normal human beings do. And then we never know, is the behavior that we're doing healthy? Is the behavior that we're doing in alignment with where we're going? Or not? What if the first sexual experience you had was something that was not consensual? Then will you ever know where consent is and what it looks like and what it feels like? Because we pattern ourselves with our previous experiences. And we say our first experience was normal, therefore every experience after that, if it looks like that first experience, we'll be like, yeah, it's totally normal, there's nothing going on. But it's not until we can actually have these conversations with other people, bounce ideas off of them, that we will really be able to understand what is healthy in our sexuality and what might be out of balance. And obviously this is different for everyone, and I don't want to judge or shame or guilt anyone in their sexuality. What I want to do is to encourage a conversation where we can talk about this. And we can say, not, well, why do you do that in a judgmental way, but what are you looking for? And are you getting what you're looking for out of the experiences that you have? And if not, why? And how do you get that? Because our goal in all of life is to get exactly what it is that we desire. To strip away the ego, the shame, the doubt, the fear, to stop hiding from our shame and get exactly what it is that we desire, right? And so this relates to our sexuality because so many people, especially young people, don't know what they want sexually because it's taboo, because they've never had the conversation. They didn't even know what conversation to have. They didn't know the questions to ask. They didn't even know there were questions to ask. And there's nothing wrong with them being exactly where they are. But as we go through life, as we mature, as we collect these stories, as we have sexual experiences, good ones, bad ones, indifferent, empowering ones, terrifying ones, whatever it is, it's important to tell our stories, not out of ego and, oh, well, look at me. But it's important to tell our stories so that way other people, as they're still learning what they want, what consent looks like, what is pleasurable, how to really enjoy the juicy pleasure of their own bodies, they can hear it from us and not feel alone, and not feel ostracized, and not feel shame, not feel like they're doing something that needs to be hidden, because it doesn't. Because human sexuality is just a part of being human. And so I am really pushing my own self to treat sex and sexuality like any other emotion, any other feeling. You know? Today I'm sad, tomorrow I'm happy, the next day I desire sex. And that's okay. Or maybe all of them at the same time, right? You know, they don't have to be in those little tiny boxes. But desiring sex and having sex are very natural things to do. And so the more we don't talk about it, the more it gets stigmatized. And by talking about it, by telling our stories, that's where the power is, and that's where we help to increase the energetic vibration and allow other people, or give them the space to know that they can have the beautiful sexual expressions that they want to have. And because they have mentors, because they have people to relate to, because they see themselves in us and us in themselves, they feel free to be them. So as we become more and more free to be ourselves, we open up pathways and doors for other people to open up and become themselves. And so that's the beauty of the work that I'm doing. I love helping people become their most true, authentic self. Because when you are free, then you energetically vibrate this frequency that supports others in their endeavors and in their quest to be free. So, thank you so much for tuning in today. Thank you for whatever conversations you have around sex and sexuality. Thank you for your work in becoming you, the most beautiful, perfect you that you could ever be. Thank you for doing the work. I'd love it if you subscribe to my channel. Check out the link below for my blog, and I do coaching and therapy work, and I would love to work with you if you feel like we're a good match. So contact me and have an absolutely lovely day. Be well. Bye-bye.